All right, so today we're solving two-step equations. So we're going to solve two-step equations, and we're going to solve real-world problems involving two-step equations. So this says Santos is planning a hot air balloon ride. The cost of the ride is $125 plus $50 for each hour in the air. The equation C equals 50H plus 125 represents the total cost C to ride a hot air balloon for H hours. So it says find the total cost of Santos' ride for 2 hours. So all we would have to do is take 2 and substitute it for the H. So it'd be C equals 50 times 2 plus 125, or 100 plus 125, or $225 is what it would cost for 2 hours. Now, how long would Santos ride if he had $325? You would take that as the total, and so then it would be 50H plus 125. Well, this is what we're going to look at today on how to solve these types of problems, okay? So I would subtract 125 from both sides, and I'm going to end up with 200 equals 50H, divide both sides by 50, and I end up with 4 hours he could ride for $325, okay? And that's what we're going to look at today, two-step equations. So two-step equations, like the one I just did, contains 2 operations. So to solve a two-step equation, use inverse operations to undo each operation in reverse order of the order of operations. So just like we did with the others for the last 2 days, we're just kind of combining some things and adding a little bit to it. So there are 2 methods you can use. You can use what's called the vertical method or the horizontal method. The vertical method is the one that I use. So if I have 3a plus 9 equals 33, I do adding and subtracting before multiplication and division. So the end goal is to get this a all by itself, okay? So how do I do that? So how do I get this a all by itself? All right, so the first thing I want to do is to any adding or subtraction. Well, I have a plus 9. So the opposite of addition is subtraction. So I would have to subtract 9 from both sides. So that would leave me 9 minus 9 is 0, so it just leaves me with 3a. And 33 minus 9 is 24. Then I would, just like the last lesson, I would divide both sides by 3, because that's 3 times a. And that leaves me with a equals 8, okay? Now, the other method that you could check is called horizontal method. And the only difference is instead of putting the negative 9 below, or subtracting 9 below, you're putting it horizontal side by side. That's the only difference, and you'll see both. And then to check it, I just take that answer, plug it in for a, and solve. So 3 times 8 is 24. 24 plus 9 is 33, so the answer checks. Okay? All right. So here's a couple. Let's work one together, and then you can try the other one. So 6x plus 1 equals 25. So I would start with adding or subtracting. The opposite of addition is subtraction. So I subtract 1 from each side. 1 minus 1 is 0, so that leaves me with 6x equals 25 minus 1 is 24. Now 6x is multiplications, so I divide both sides by 6, and x equals 4. And to check that would be 6 times 4 plus 1. This would be 24 plus 1, or 25, and that checks. Okay? Now you try 1b and then come back and see how you did. Okay, so I would add 5 to both sides. Then I would divide both sides by 4, and that gives me x equals negative 7. I can take that negative 7, plug it into x to check. 4 times negative 7 is negative 28. Negative 28 minus 5 is negative 33, so it checks. All right. Now we have c divided by 2 minus 13 equals 7. So again, I would add 13 to both sides. Negative 13 plus 13 would be 0. That leaves me with c over 2. And 7 plus 13 is 20. Now, just like yesterday's lesson or the lesson before, we would multiply both sides by 2, and that would give me c equals 40. I then could plug 40 in for the c, and I get 40 divided by 2 is 20. 20 minus 13 is 7, so 40 must be my answer. All right. So I'll do the first one with you, and then stop and try to do the second one on your own. So we would have to subtract 15 from both sides, because 15 is positive. Then that would give me negative 7 equals n over 3. And then I would have to multiply both sides by 3. And that gives me negative 21 equals n. Now I can check and see if I'm right. That's 15 plus negative 21 divided by 3. That would be 15 plus negative 7. And subtract 15 minus 7 is 8, so it checks. All right, pause it, try 2b, and see what you get. All right, let's see how you did. So you would add 3 to both sides, and you would get negative 16x equals 5. Then you would have to multiply both sides by negative 6, and that would give you x equals negative 30. And then to check that, we would take negative 16 times negative 30, and that would minus 3. And the negative 16 times 30 would give me a positive 5, and 5 minus 3 is 2, so it checks. All right. Now, dealing with negative coefficients. So, for example, if I have 9 minus t equals negative 34. So the first thing I'm going to do is subtract 9 from both sides. That's going to give me negative t equals negative 43. Now you see the variable negative t. That's like saying negative 1t. Well, we have to get this just t, not negative t. So I divide both sides by negative 1. And t would then be negative divided by negative is positive, so positive 43. And we could check that. 9 minus 43 would be like saying 9 plus a negative 43. Opposite signs, you subtract and keep the sign of the larger absolute value. And that would give me negative 34. Check. Okay? All right, so let's work one together, and then again you work the second one and come back and see how you did. So I would add 15 to both sides. That's going to give me negative b equals, looks like what, 59? And then this is just like negative 1b equals 59, so I divide by negative 1, and b equals negative 59. Now I could check that by negative 15 minus a negative 59. Keep, change, so negative 15 plus 59. Opposite signs is subtract, and keep the sign of the larger absolute value. Well, the larger absolute value is positive, so it's going to be a positive 44. Check. So my answer has to be negative 59. So pause, try 3b, come back and see how you did. All right, so you would add 4.3 to both sides. That would give me negative 2.2 equals negative n, or negative 1n. Divide both sides by negative 1. Negative divided by negative is a positive, so 2.2 equals n. And if I check that, negative 4.3 minus 2.2, same sign, add them, keep the sign, negative 6.5, it checks. All right, good job. So now we have a problem like this. 7y minus 2y plus 4 equals 29. So the first thing that we're going to look at is we have like terms. Remember, the sign or the operation becomes the sign in front of the term. So we have 7y minus 2y, which would give me 5y. And then I just bring everything else down. So 5y plus 4 equals 29. Now I work it just like I've been working the problems. I would subtract 4 from both sides, and that gives me 5y equals 25. I then divide both sides by 5, and y equals 5. When I check that, I check it with the original equation. So I plug 5 in for y and 5 in for y. 7 times 5 is 35. 2 times 5 is 10, so 35 minus 10 plus 4. 35 minus 10 is 25. 25 plus 4 is 29, so it checks. Y must equal 5. All right, same thing. I'll do the first one, you do the second one. All right, so I have a like term here, and I have a like term here. So I would say negative 9 plus 3 gives me a negative 6, keep the variable of c, equals 58. Now I would subtract 4 from both sides, and that's going to give me negative 6c equals 54. I divide by negative 6, and c equals negative 9. Now to check that, I could say 4 minus 9 times negative 9 plus 3 times negative 9. Well, 4 minus 9 times a negative 9 would then be a negative 81. And then I have plus 3 times a negative 9 would give me a negative 27. And then this would become keep, change. So that's 85 minus 27. And 85 minus 27 would be 58, which checks. Okay? You try 4B, come back and see how you did. All right, so you would have like terms of 0.4 m and positive 0.2 m, so that would give me 3.4 equals 0.6 m minus 2. I then would add 2 to both sides, and that gives me 5.4 equals 0.6 m. Then I would divide 0.6 on both sides, and that gives me 9 equals m. Then I just plug 9 back into the original equations and solve, and it checks out. Okay. So now we're looking at real-world problems, and we can write and solve two-step equations to solve many real-world problems. So if we look at this, it says Nina reads 50 pages of a 485-page book. Nina now plans to read 15 pages a day. So the equation 50 plus 15x, or she already read 50 pages, plus 15 pages times however many days equals 485, the total pages of the book. Represents how many days it will take Nina to read the rest of the book. So we are to write the steps that can be used to solve the equation. Well, when we look at this, in order to solve this, you would have to subtract 50 first. Then you would have to divide each side by 15 to get your answer of 29 days, right? So the first step is to subtract 50, then you would divide by 15. And so that's how you would answer that. To solve the equation, first subtract 50, then divide by 15. All right, so last one. Salvatore purchased a computer for $650. He paid $105 initially and will pay $20 per month until the computer is paid off. So the equation 105 plus 20x equals 650 can be used to find how many months he will make payments. Which series of steps can be used to solve the equation? Well, when you have this equation, you're going to have to subtract 105 first, right? And that would give you 20x equals like 545. And then you are going to have to divide by 20. Okay? Well, it's not really asking for an answer, it's asking for the steps. So this one says subtract 105 from 650, then divide by 20. So that would be the answer I would be looking for. Okay? What steps am I taking? All right, if you got any questions, let me know. Otherwise, have a great one.